Hi guys, Anton, and we're back here at Hall Speed and we're chatting with Glyn today about 2021 Dakar. Glyn, happy to be back home?
Yeah, but it was a big race and it takes a lot of recovery time. So, you normally allow 2 weeks and it's feeling like it's going to take 2 weeks at least. But overall, second is a great result, but winning 9 stages, I really thought that we should have been able to win the race.
What do you think was the biggest obstacle that you guys had?
Honestly speaking, the stage wins would say that our performance was more than adequate to win the race, but we're just busy doing all of the detailed analysis, and we still don't think the rules are totally balanced. And then again, we had the puncture challenges. So out of all of our cars, in the end, Nasser had the least amount of punctures. Of course, he came second, but he was still 15, 16, 17 minutes behind Stefan. And it would be easy just to look at the results and say all that was lost on stage 1. But the Dakar isn't like that. Opening the stage and following can be 2 totally different races. So we expected to gain on stage 2, because it was a mainly June stage, at least 8 or 10 minutes of the time we lost on stage 1. So we weren't too unhappy at the beginning, but as it worked out, I think there was more at play than just the stages. I think that the diesel mini buggy had quite a performance advantage, and it was clear by all the drivers reporting to us about how fast the vehicle accelerated compared to ours, which wasn't the case in the Rally Hail, 4 weeks before, when Nasser ran next to Carlos Sainz and Stefan, and the accelerations were pretty equal. So we've got this variable called turbo boost, which is not controlled in the diesel engines, and I think that that's probably the main differential between the performance of the vehicles.
What would you say is the biggest advantages of running a 4x4 vehicle versus the buggies that is 4x2?
So the rules are meant to be to give equal opportunity to both, the technical rules, and this is very difficult because there are so many variables. And when Peugeot arrived back in 2016 with a buggy, we were all very wary of kind of the amount of modifications or freer regulations within the buggy rules compared to 4x4. So bottom line is, to answer your question, a 4x4 car is what we as Toyota sell. That is our off-road vehicle. So there's a fair amount of pressure from marketing to align ourselves with the product that we actually sell. Hilux, you want to go off-road, you go 4x4. But in the Rally Raid regulations, there's some big, hefty rule changes which have been adjusted over the years when Peugeot came. There was one big step, and then from then on, very small steps. The weight is 300 kilograms, or 270 actually, difference. So that's quite big. The tire size is 940 mils as against 810. That's big as well in itself. The buggy is wider. The suspension travel is free. So this is sounding like a little bit of a whining story, and perhaps we should have pursued a buggy if we thought the rules weren't going to be brought more in line. But certainly in Saudi, with those conditions, it has been favouring the 2-wheel drive vehicles for the past 2 Dakars.
Sorry, just to come back, you said you might have had to look at a buggy. Now I know that in 2017 you had a buggy, well basically a Hilux, a buggy that looks like a Hilux still. Why did you guys decide not to keep on running that? I mean, what was the reasoning of dropping that idea?
Okay, so we did a buggy project, and we built one, a 2-wheel drive Hilux, and we spent about 5 months developing the car, and we got to a good level of performance. But at that time, I wasn't convinced that the development that was happening for the buggy, that we would be allowed or be able to use it going forward. So this caused a bit of stress, and the cost to run a 2-wheel drive vehicle like Peugeot were running and like Mini are running is quite a lot higher than our 4x4 Hilux that we're running now. So there was a lot of fors and against, but in the end, we decided to keep the faith in the FIA that the regulations will be brought closer, and we're still kind of waiting.
You guys had, I think it was 120 odd something punctures or tire problems. And a lot of the guys are complaining, say, yeah, but BF this and BF that, or Michelin this and Michelin that. I understand it's not really the case of the tires being bad. It is what was actually the problem.
So the conditions in Saudi are very specific. There's a lot of sharp stones and rocks which a smaller diameter tire can't absorb the energy from. Also, making a 810 millimeter tire for a 4x4 vehicle is a big challenge anyway, and certainly BFG and Michelin have been the best in the world at that for some considerable time. They've been the tire of choice. So we went to a new tire in 2017, and when we won the Dakar in 2018, we went to the new tire. The tire in 2019 worked really well in the sand dunes of Peru. It was designed specifically for sandy conditions. And then we moved directly to Saudi afterwards. So the punctures suddenly became a big story very quickly. And due to COVID last year, I don't think that BF Goodrich or Michelin in America had time to react all the resources during those times. Whether they could do it going forward, I think it would cost quite a lot of money. And what we're hearing from many sources is that the size of tire really can't absorb the energy with the speed that the cars are going at, and which we are going faster than we've ever gone before. There's no question.
Does the bigger wheels and the wider body of the buggies really improve their performance, or is it also due to the ability that they can inflate and deflate their tires on the fly? What makes them specifically at this point, that you said 16, 17 minutes faster over almost 4,000 kilometers of stages?
Yeah, I think it will be more than 16 minutes when we break down the analysis. I think there was a lot of strategic play. Dakar is complicated, and if you open a stage, Stefan only won one stage during the race. So if you've got a lot of cars continually winning stages, shall we say, then you don't need to win. If there's only two cars that can, or two drivers that can win, you have to win a lot more stages. But going back to answer your question, for sure the inflation, deflation is an advantage, and it was actually banned some years ago by the manufacturers to save costs. But it was left on the two-wheel drive vehicles because it was felt it was needed. And it was quite a simple system in those days, whereas the 4x4 vehicles, it was all integrated into the hubs at that point in time. The bigger tyre, again, it is an advantage. There's no question around it. And if the car's wider, then the centre of gravity is automatically lower in the same car. So there are advantages, all along. And I think that over the years, the 4x4 regulations were controlled in cost. Before we started entering Dakar, it was a big shake-up back in 2000 when the basis of these rules were put in place. And it was to stop the massive cars of Citroën and Peugeot and Mitsubishi, where the budgets were enormous in those days. So they've evolved into what we have today.
Now, there are rumors around there that Nasser might be looking at Audi for next year because he's not very impressed with the FIA not equaling the playing field or leveling the playing field. Is that just rumors at this point?
I think after the statement that Nasser made at the end of the race, you must remember Nasser is he's an absolute sportsman. He's very passionate about what he does. And at the end of the race, he was in pieces. He did a perfect race. He said, he and Matthew, and he said quite openly that the team, there was zero technical problem with the Hilux during the entire race. You can imagine 5,000 kilometers of flat-out motoring.
And then you win 9 stages.
Yeah, of course, Nasser didn't win all 9. They were shared around, but he won the majority. And he just felt that he should have won. And in my opinion, and a lot of people's opinion, Nasser is the #1 driver in the world, and he wants to win. So people, I think, are taking some of these statements and developing stories from them, but we'll have to wait and see. Certainly, we would like to have Nasser in our car at the next Dakar, and that'll be our aim. So talk is quite cheap, and we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
Will you guys be sticking to the 4x4 Hilux for 2022, or would you start considering looking at the Buggy 4x2 again?
Toyota are committed to the four-wheel drive sector, and certainly the new, shall we say, zero emission or small emission cars, whatever we're going to refer to them as, will be 4x4. I was informed of this during the race, so those new regulations won't be two-wheel drive, they will be four-wheel drive, and we can only hope maybe the combination of both of the types of formula with a single chassis will be the sensible way to go.
If there's one thing that you can take away from this Dakar that you will be able to build on for the next one, what would that be?
I think when we've had our debrief in detail, we've had some already, there is never one item. It is many items. And we will be building on what we've learned, for sure. We've had more experience this year. The Hilux that we ran was the fastest Hilux we've ever produced. And certainly as far as reliability was amazing. We had, unfortunately, Bernard Brinker in his Euro-based car with overdrive had a massive accident, walked away, so the safety is great. But in terms of technical aspects, we will be looking at every detail and developing. It's never one simple item, but we will be looking for some regulation changes. There's no question about that.
Then the new boy, Henk.
Yes,
what a performance.
Absolutely. Not only Henk, but Brett as well. Absolutely incredible performance showing of speed. The sad part is that between Henk and Brett, they didn't get enough kilometers. So the world now knows who Henk Latergan is. There's no question about that. And even Carlos Sainz at a dinner said to me, he was driving with Henk at some portion during the dunes, and he said, no, he's good. He's got all the skills. So we need them to get more kilometers. We need them to get more experience. Dakar is not only about being the fastest guy around there. You've got to have everything in the right place to win. So Henk, brilliant performance. Brett, who's been there before, was great. The navigation was new for everybody, so a great time to introduce the pair to Dakar. But I do wish they'd had more kilometers, but I'm very happy with the performance that both of them had while they were in the race.
And Henk is still a youngster, 26. I can just imagine how you will be able to develop him. If you can keep him, just keep Pijo and Mini away from him.
Well, maybe we've got a plan for that. So, yeah, we'll do our best to make sure that they have better and longer and more successful Dakars in the future.
Glyn, well done to you and your team. It was amazing to see you guys just take on everyone in Saudi again. And Hilux, what a brilliant vehicle.
Thank you.
Well done.
I agree.
Well done on the engineering on it.
We did. It's a team effort. It's not just me. There's many people here at the company working, and a lot of help from all over the world assembling the Hilux that we, or developing the Hilux that we presented on Dakar earlier this month. So we're proud of what we did, and we would have loved to bring the big trophy back to South Africa.
And then I'll see you guys in Dolstrom.
See you then.